Ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the CryptoManiacs podcast for the last day in May. Crazy, huh? It's June. Like I'm for you down in the tropics, you're used to whatever. But here, you know what June means? Means no more frost, no more snow. That's what June means. We get our
But
1.5 months of summer starting tomorrow.
but haven't you you guys have been having some unseasonably cold weather, haven't you? At
It's
times?
Yeah, I mean it hasn't been too bad. I mean it's decent. It's very comfortable up here. But last year apparently it was really warm. But now it's just cool, I guess. Not cold. It's not like you go outside and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's freezing," but it's like you feel it in the air. But
Yeah.
it's
You're not gonna run out in the backyard and rip off your shirt and go sunbathing.
exactly. You might get frostbite. But
Yeah, another burn, not from the heat, but from the cold.
yeah, man. So how you doing, Task? How's your weekend been? As you can see, I'm still living in boxes. I'm in
Yeah,
the
well, I mean, it's yeah, I don't have any of that chaos. I mean, somebody asked me how was my day the other night, and I said, you know, yeah, all right. And she's like, anything good? Anything? No, it's just very mundane life. And at some point times it's like kind of boring, but then it's like being chaos free is very nice. And now
yes,
you don't obviously don't know that because you have young children, and young children just by their definition are chaos.
yes, yeah,
Um, and then you throw on top of the fact that you're moving, which is always kind of like root canal. So that's never fun. So I do empathize with you, my friend,
thank
and
you, thank you.
I hope you get everything moved soon. And then we got a zinger coming on. We were having a special guest, and he said that the first time in about 3 weeks that they've had rain where he's located, which nobody knows where he's located. But Matt is not able to join us. He's in the rainy climate right now, which I guess it was arid, but that screwed up his whole internet signal, and he says it's not going to work. So
Mm.
for anybody who's tuning in to see Matt, we do apologize. We will try getting him back in the dry season, get him back in a few weeks. And we'll take another swing. We're not going to give up.
Yes, keep swinging, keep on swinging. Yeah, it's Blaine's in chat asking if I'm done moving yet. No, not even close. This is my third U-Haul in 3 days today, so it's exciting. Why aren't you moved? Because there's multiple houses moving, so it's a process. We have a little compound being built. I'm going to start a clan, or not a clan, a cult. That's the word I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
yeah. What was that guy's name in the 70s? Jones. What was his first
Jim
name?
Jones. Yes,
Jim
yes,
Jones. Jim
yeah,
Jones. You're going to be another Jim Jones. You got the
yeah.
cyanide ready?
Yep, perfect, ready to go. Kool-Aid's ready, good to go. Yeah, man. No, it's crazy. Completely different. I mean, this is nothing to do with crypto, but the big Jonestown, yeah, named
Yep.
after you, man. It's such a massive difference, dude. Like living in the city, like you don't even think about it. You got your cell phone, check, if someone sends you a note on Discord or whatever, you don't even think about it. Out there, you're sitting there like trying to find signal. I got smoke.
You're raising one arm and the other, and
Yeah,
stand on one leg. It's like the old days. Hey, stand a little closer to the rabbit ears. Put your arm up. Trying to get the signal.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, man. Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
it's that's one thing. I mean, we talked about Matt. I mean, watching what he goes through. It's for those of us in the developed world, and it's just like no big deal. You click on the laptop, click on the PC, and you're connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But he's having to go to cafes and bars, and I don't know if he goes to the bars for the internet connection or for other reasons, but it may be a convenient excuse. But it just it makes you appreciate what other people are going through. And Blaine said he bought more index, so There's the crypto news of the day. Blaine bought index, and
Dude, Blaine's been stocking up on index. I mean, it's crazy. I read a really cool post. This is a great great transition into the show. I was reading an awesome post by Bitcoin Flood. He said yesterday about how, like, during these times, and if is it a bear market? Sure, whatever. I mean, who knows? But he made the post about, this is when you build. This is when the accumulation should really take place, and this is when you should really bear down the hatches and just say, you know what, I'm in this, I'm riding it out, and see where it goes. And that's what Blaine does. I mean, Blaine does a lot of that because people are always selling index and trying to flip index. Like, they treat a lot of these Hive Engine tokens like they would on a major market, but when
yeah,
there's $20 of volume in some of these things, they
yeah,
try to play the arbitrage, I guess. I don't know, whatever they do. Whatever those day
yeah,
traders do.
they're playing the spread.
Yeah, they're playing the spread. And I get it. I'm not going to fault anyone. I think it's ridiculous for something like an income token like index to try to play that, because I think the more wealth is by holding and just sitting there and letting it do its thing. But Blaine has been doing that now for months, and you'll see $200-300 of volume on index, and you go and you look at who bought it, and it's usually Blaine. And he tries to get when people are selling,
Yeah,
and
well,
that's what's why not?
it's if you have any fiat that this is the time to add. But you talk about it from the financial perspective. It's also, if you listen to the project team leaders and people talk about building their projects, now's the time you can find developers, because a lot of the bullshit projects are encountering headwind, and they're not going to be throwing around the same money. And all of a sudden, these developers are all out there, and it's like, well, wait a second. 6 months ago, everybody was knocking down my door, and I could say, I'll do it for $300 an hour, and
Right.
now nobody's calling. And so, Elon said something about this the other day. He did an interview, or at least I read the write up about it the other day. I don't know when he exactly gave the interview, but he's been projecting either later this year or next year a recession, and he basically says it's needed. He said companies need to go bankrupt, because
Right.
what you have in these boom times is a misallocation of resources. And so you have, or misallocation of capital, and you have capital going to these projects that should be dead. And that's what bankruptcy does. It clears out, and due to a recession, clears out all these, what we call now zombie corporations, and a lot of these companies that are absolutely worthless. And in crypto, you got a lot of projects that aren't going anywhere, that people are just throwing tokens at. We saw it in the ICO craze. People were throwing money at, a copy and pasted white paper with a few words changed. Usually it was the name.
Tron.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And actually, that was one that he actually forked it. There was other white papers out there that they didn't actually fork anything other than the damn white paper. And people were throwing money at it. So, the cleansing out economically is always a good thing. And, what you're saying from the individual perspective, I mean, you and I have preached about this since we started this show, and we were preaching about it before this. What do you do when the market's up? The same thing as you do each day when the markets are down. And part of our filling our bags is the activity that we undertake on chain. Well, we don't change that when the market's down. So, we're adding and adding and adding, and we know that due to everybody getting frustrated and leaving, the reward pools are split among fewer people, which means the same content is bringing in a bit more rewards than it would normally. And that's how you fill your bags. And I'm going to put together a post. I remember when we peaked out in January 2018, my holdings were about 180 grand. I was, not long, maybe about a year and a half into crypto. I was about 5 months on Hive. And this time I peaked out, I was over $1 million 4 years later. And I keep adding, keep growing, keep expanding. where am I going to peak out in the next bull run? I mean, that's how you work up the scale. So what Blaine's doing is, if index even gets back to the point it was at the peak, he's that much further ahead because he has that many more index tokens. Plus, like you said, he's getting all the other stuff that he may hodl. He may swap some stuff out, whatever he decides to do. It just all adds up.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, and you really start seeing it. I always talk about, when I got started in 2017 on this blockchain, and just thinking about it, I remember when we were on our little, about 6 months ago or so, when it was kind of like the top of the bull, and I'm sitting there looking at my Splinterlands account, and it was over $1 million worth of Splinterland cards. Now, obviously, that's gone down tremendously because of the price of the tokens, but just seeing that and knowing that, I had spent maybe $2 or $3 or maybe $4,000 on cards, maybe, and how did I get the majority of that stuff? Going when people were selling, like getting in there when people were trying to get out or looking at something new and sexy. I made this post, and I saw that you checked it out last night, about the shiny object syndrome. And coming from the background of affiliate marketing, online business, we had this bombarded with us every time you'd open your email. There was something new, latest, greatest that was coming out. And I compared it to crypto because that's what seems to be. Hive loses its sexiness when the price of Hive is 50 cents. When it's 12 cents, it's not sexy. So people go look for the new shiny object. But there's something to be said about focusing and just saying, okay, I see the big picture of this. I see where this is going to be potentially, there's no guarantees, but potentially 5-10 years down the road, people are selling this for 50 cents, and I totally see the value of this at $10. I'm going to be active. I'm going to keep trucking. I'm going to just keep going. Most people won't, though. Most people will do it's not sexy, and they'll go to something new and the new shiny object. And look, like Luna 2 is out. I mean, what happened to Luna 1? Didn't that thing just crash and burn like a couple weeks ago? And now they got a new one out? Like, well, someone explain this to me. Maybe someone in the comments or something can explain to me how that works, how something completely crashes and burns, and they say, I got an idea, let's do it over again.
That's called forking and airdropping. That's all it is, forking and airdropping. And
didn't the price of it like tank too? Like
it shot up, I think. It then it tanked. It's all of this stuff, John, and we talk about it all the time. It comes down to utility. And that's what really, you have to work at building value. And when I say you, it's the community, it's the stakeholders, it's the people involved, it's the developers, the development teams. And we talk about listeners, we talk about CTP. We had Blaine on here recently. You guys are building. You guys are looking at creating value for members of the community, and you're inviting, obviously, members of the community in to come share their ideas, implement their ideas, use the platforms, help grow the network effect, and all that good stuff. That's what it takes. Now, will CTP, will listeners take off? Who the hell knows? But your chance of success a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road are a lot greater than you trying to monkey with the tokenomics to say, hey, let's get the price of CTP to 25 cents. Now, it might be great to get the price of CTP to 25 cents, but where does it go from there? What's going to push it to 50 cents as opposed to pushing it back down to 1 penny? And that's what there is so little of, in my observation, within cryptocurrency. I attribute it to simple business building methods. If people look at these things as businesses and these communities as businesses and applying business building stuff, what is our USP? What makes us different? What is going to interest people? What are people going to use? What can keep people on our apps longer? All that stuff. What is going to bring more people to our apps? How do we market this thing? All of that's important. And sitting there saying, well, we got the best token burn in the industry. Who gives a shit? It's like somebody, I wrote that in a post, and somebody put a comment and said, if you burn all the tokens till there's only one token, what's it worth? Still zero if there's nothing there. it's not worth a damn
Yeah.
if the project isn't. So that's why I stick with the Leo finances. That's what I like what you guys are doing. That's why the Speak Network guys, that's why Disregard Fiat and what he's doing. That's what Yaba and Agrod are doing with Splinterlands. That's what it looks like with CyberX. And I know I'm missing a lot of things. Echo Instance, he's out there building his, paradise in the jungle or whatever the heck he's into.
Yeah, he's building something out there.
Or he's building something. Raymond Speaks is building stuff. So there's plenty of people. Marky is building with the Hive Ape and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So all this other stuff is taking place, and that ultimately, then you got what Block Trades and Howu and the core developers are doing at the base layer of the operations. Now we got HBD, and people are looking at integrating HBD into different things. That all just keeps adding up, and none of it is a solution that's going to make Hive go from 50 cents to $5 in the next week. It's not interesting. It's not sexy. It's not cool, because these are all in development. But you know what? You guys with this stumble upon may have a breakthrough thing. Maybe CyberX is a breakthrough thing. Maybe Exo is a breakthrough thing. I don't know what it's going to be, but there's a lot of projects vying for this that I think something will break through.
I need you to say that again. I know Blaine's in the audience, so we got to make sure that is in our plans in the next, we have our timeline, right? And we have our schedule of stuff, and obviously
so does Cal. What the hell does a timeline mean?
Well, Cal's got 15,000 programmers. Okay, we've got a Blaine. Okay,
yeah, but 15,000 programs, his timelines are still for shit.
Well, when Moon, right? I mean,
soon.
Yeah.
The sooner.
Yeah, soon.
At least Blaine, it's very clear cut. He says
when it gets done.
It says it'll be in a week. He says when it gets done, or say screw off. I'll let you know when it's done. Get lost. Shut up. Leave me alone.
Well, I want you to just repeat what you just said about how the stumble upon idea is fantastic, because I need Blaine to hear that so that he knows how good this idea is. And
it's an astronomical idea. It's a winning idea, of course, from what I could ascertain between the two of you. It's you who are screwing it up because you're not testing the damn thing out.
I did. I'm looking at it right now.
Three upvotes and 4 downvotes. I mean,
yeah. Well, I'm on it right now.
Okay? So you spend our conversation. You wind me up, so I go on a 5-minute rant, and then you just do stumble upon, or
right. I'm
whatever it's called.
Just keep talking. I'm stumbling. Yeah.
He's got beta testers, 2 beta testers, and neither of them use the damn app.
I try. I'm I've gotten I hate excuses are annoying, but I've really been busy for the past couple of days. I'm viewing. Yes, thank you, Blaine. Not stumbling. We're viewing, and all will be understood then. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
So that's the name? Or a piece of the name?
Piece of the name, yeah.
Piece of the name.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's believe it or not, sometimes that's the hardest shit. You come up with you repackage an old idea, but you gotta come up with a new name.
Yeah. It's tough. It's funny thinking of the process of coming up with a website idea, a product, or whatever. Me and Blaine for years now have done this. We've got great ideas. It's like, yeah, this is how it'll work. Oh, it's going to be fantastic. It'll be wonderful. And then this is where the stumbling block.
What do we call it?
What do we call it? and he starts throwing out domains to me, and I'm like, well, that one's cool. What about spelling it like this? And it's tough, man, because you think about your brand, and this is obviously more business than crypto, but especially on Hive, where your personal brand is very important on Hive. Getting people to know it and roll off the tongue, and my Hive account 325 to the 5th power isn't very memorable. I screwed up with naming my account. I put the G in it. I'm rolling with it now, right? I thought I'd be really extravagant and put the G in.
John Golson.
Now it's John Golson, or John Golson, John Go. So I got to roll with it. Anyways, point being is that naming things is tough.
Well, it is, but you think historically, the one company that historically or traditionally was messed up was Kodak.
Kodak.
But since the internet, you look at Google. What the hell's a Google? What the hell's a Twitter?
It's a million zeros, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah. So it's you get these names that most people don't know, but they Yahoo. I mean, what what the hell's a Yahoo?
Yeah.
Ask Jeeves. That guy's name may have been Jeeves. Who the hell knows?
All right.
But yeah, I mean, so the thing about the internet is, like you said, you can develop the brand a lot easier than in the non-digital world, just simply because of the ability of repetition and if you get the network effect, people pick up on the name.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, man. So it's fun though. It's fun coming up with these names and coming up with these ideas. But we're bullish about it. I mean, again, I think Hive is like going back to what you said about use case. Hive is in such a unique position when it comes to crypto, and especially being in the bear market, people are so stuck on price, or so stuck on price. But this community actually uses this stuff, and that's what's so exciting for us as people that want to build businesses on this blockchain. Is that the price can be 10 cents, it can be $10. I know Chris is going to show up tomorrow and write a post. I know that he's going to be really interested in what he's talking about. I know that Eliana is going to be in here using this stuff. I know that the CTP community is going to be using the listener stuff. Like, we know that there's actual use case for this stuff. Price, so yeah, everyone wants high prices. Everyone wants to see their account go to 6 figures or 7 figures. Everyone's living the Vida Loca then. But the most important thing is that tomorrow we're going to use it, and the next day we're going to use it, and in a week from now we're going to use it. And if the price goes up, great. If it goes down, doesn't matter. We're still using it. And that's what's so cool about this and building on this blockchain, is that there's actual use case for it. And I know that sounds beating a dead horse, but it's the truth.
Well, I'll add something else that I find very interesting. And again, I'll use Blaine since he was just on it, and he talked about, and you guys talked about, taking listeners and tying it in even more to the blockchain. Now, he obviously didn't go into details of that, and so you guys haven't shared that. But then this stumble upon type idea from what you guys kind of revealed, I think that ties into the blockchain. So what the thing is there's developers who are out there who are taking applications and saying, how can I tie this more into the blockchain? How can we use this blockchain and incorporate it more into what we are doing, instead of using just exclusively servers and that type of thing? And I think that's really an important point, because that ends up driving more and more value back to Hive. Right. Because now there's more transactions. Now there's more value because you're using the account management, or you're using the immutability, or the custom JSON, or whatever you're doing. I mean, Brian of London, who we're going to have next week on, I mean, look at what he's doing. He's using Hive as a database.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, and everything he's doing, he says, okay, I'm going to take Lightning, I'm going to tie it into Hive. Okay, well, I did that. Now I'm going to take podcasts and I'm going to tie it into Hive. Whatever he's involved with, it's like, how do I tie it back to Hive? And I think that's a very, very important point. Not that doesn't happen with Ethereum, not that it doesn't happen with Polygon and some of these other EVM forks, but it's like, as we know, it's like, well, I'll go from BSC to Polygon in an instance of developer just to get more exposure. And with Hive, you don't have that. It's like the core features and values of Hive don't change for somebody like Blaine. So when he creates something new, he's looking, okay, I got the account management, I got custom JSONs, I got, the tokenization at the base layer, I got all this, that I got the wallet system, I can tap right into it.
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah. He's just amazing. This is the Blaine show.
Well, I use him because he's recent in my memory. If he was on 6 months ago, or 6 months from now, I'll forget who the hell he is. Other than the fact that he's sitting there yelling at you, which is always enjoyable.
Yeah, just make sure you add an E to the end of his name, and he'll be dandy. He'll love it. Yeah. So, well, what else? What else captures your attention this past week in the wonderful world of Hive?
Well, the Speak Network had an AMA.
Yep.
Blaine's waiting for his next invite. It'll be after John's done moving.
Yes, and after Blaine's moving next. So
Blaine's moving next. Then is Eliana moving after that?
No, she lives in a tropical island in the middle of the Atlantic, so she's okay. She's never moving
Till hurricane season. Then
yeah.
I understand that. I live right next to the ocean too. But anyway, getting back to Speak Network's AMA, they had an AMA yesterday, and they had Disregard on, who is developing some of the infrastructure. They're using his honeycomb system, as Dan told us a few weeks ago, and they are doing a lot of interesting stuff. And if you've seen, and this is something I was going to bring up with Matt, and if you've seen some of the tweets that Matt's put out, if you've seen some of Dan's recent videos, they're talking about forking out some of these VC, some of these founder stake chains, and really waking the world up to what is possible. And once they start to get some things going on Speak Network, they will have the integration into some of these areas where basically Hive connects to these different chains. So that's, they're building infrastructure, and infrastructure isn't sexy. It's very slow going, but you get that infrastructure and build those bridges, all of a sudden things can change a great deal.
I saw it reminds me of, and I hate bringing up the old blockchain, but they did something there, the developers, just before we were about to fork, and it did something that brought the cost down tremendously. And it wasn't something that was like, people were excited, like if they were on the blockchain, people were excited about it. But generally, like the everyday person wouldn't go, "Oh, that's amazing. That makes me want to get more involved." It was a very back end type thing that they did, but it changed the game. Apparently, it allowed people to, re-upload if they needed to kickstart their server or something. Everything loaded quicker, and the cost went way down. And again, wasn't big news for everyday users. Everyday users were like, okay, just make sure my stuff works. I don't care. It's like the television. Everyone has a television in their house. Can you tell me how a television works? Can you take apart a television? No, I want to press a little button and I want to see magical little dwarves dance on the camera. That's what I wanted. I don't care how it works. Same thing here with this blockchain. We don't care how, we just want it to work. Well, this thing made it work, but made it work on a back end that made it so much more attractive for developers. It made it so much more attractive for witnesses and people that didn't have to spend, a mortgage payment every 2 days on a server. They could keep the cost down. Mm-hmm. And this is I think what you're talking about, where it's like you don't necessarily notice this stuff. This isn't the stuff that's big news, but it's the stuff that's developed. It's the stuff that you can do here, and what that opens it up for, who knows? But it's a lot better than it was yesterday.
Well, and the ones who notice are people like Blaine, who have to tie into this stuff. And so if there's an improvement that ends up on the APIs, he's the one tapping into that, getting the calls. Right. So, yes. I mean, Block Trades, a couple of weeks ago, he put out this thing about block validation all of a sudden being near instant. And, reading through that, it's like, obviously, he didn't go into much of the technicals because, that would go over most of our heads. But the basic essence, instead of taking the 45 seconds for consensus for a block to be irreversible, basically they can structure in such a way where you're basically looking at less than a second. So you're basically looking at irreversible block times in about 4 seconds, because the 3-second block plus the 1 second validation time. And that doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's like everybody's like, big deal, who cares? What's the difference? And what is the use case? Well, I guess from the immutability standpoint, that's important. From a hacking standpoint, that's important. Maybe from an efficiency standpoint, it could be important. But coming from the banking and the financial and monetary angle of things, what about settlements?
Hmm.
You have 4-second settlement times.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
BIS system's 3.5 days. So you are talking about instant settlement where all of a sudden any financial transaction, which think about this, if this was stocks, if you're dealing with commodities, I mean, you can just only think about the potential of this. Think about this as a merchant. All of a sudden you get the settlement in 4 seconds. It's done. It's over. It's no going back. Now, is that much of a big deal from 45 seconds to 4 seconds? Not for an individual merchant who has a website up. But if this thing evolves into future contracts and all this high end finance stuff, damn right that's important.
Yeah.
You know, and where are you going to find that? You're going to find that on Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is very secure, but we know that at high times, I mean, the validation can take 2.5 hours.
What do you think of something like that, application wise, to something like real estate? And obviously, I'm saying this because of the stuff my family and I just went through, and the processes of going through lawyers and freaking sending it off to this bank, and then this bank getting it to that bank, and then another lawyer seeing, like, days, if not weeks, of processes. Where do you see applications like this in? And I'm not saying Hive is going to be the real estate blockchain, but who knows? I'm just curious what you think the applications would be for that here in real estate.
Well, any of this, John, always keep in mind when you're looking at a traditional industry, and you bring up probably one of the worst. Think of the word friction. And real estate is
Yeah.
full of friction. It's an analog world primarily. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know if you've closed yet, but when you go to closing, you sign like you're signing for an hour. You're signing like 80,000 documents,
Yeah.
and it's still paper based. There is a lot of digitization in this day and age, but it's still a very archaic system. So real estate is one of those things that people are saying is going to be totally revolutionized. Um, Smart contracts are going to revolutionize things. NFTs, I think, are going to revolutionize real estate because the biggest factor, I mean, title searches, you have to pay for a title search, at least in the United States.
Right.
Um, I mean, blockchain gets rid of that. It's just search the blockchain.
Yeah.
You can go and see, you can see an NFT and you can see where it all goes. Just look at the history of an NFT and where it was going and who held it.
Yeah.
So that title searches won't need to be needed. Mortgages, if you get away from these ideas of traditional mortgages where the house is the security, the collateral and securing the loan, to some type of cryptocurrency lending where you take a crypto asset and put that up for your mortgage. So let's say you have 150,000 in whatever Bitcoin or Polycub or X Polycub or whatever. You put up 150,000 or maybe 200,000 to get $100,000 loan. Well, now your home isn't the collateral. So there's no
Yeah.
foreclosure. There's none of that. You own the home outright. That's your property. Now the risk is your Bitcoin. That's what's
Yeah.
at risk. That's what's being collateralized. So certainly anything that is in that analog, heavy paperwork, non-digital realm, which real estate is big, insurance is big, a lot of the financial sector, even though we've had fintech for a couple decades, those things haven't transformed very quickly.
Mm.
Life insurance, things of that nature. And so they're all ripe and primed for disruption because there's just so much friction in that and the international banking system.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You go and write me a check.
Mm.
So you write me a check. I put the check in the bank, even if it's instant move from your bank to my bank, from your account to my account. So at that level, at the individual level, at the commercial banking end, we've settled. But these banks have to settle their reserves. So, because if you wrote me a check, let's say I'm a car dealership, you wrote me a check for $35,000 for a car,
Mm.
that 35,000 is in my bank. It was deducted from your bank account, but the banks have to settle the reserves. So 35,000 has to be moved from your bank's reserve to my bank's reserve to make up for the difference. Or maybe it's not 35,000, maybe it's 3,500, whatever the reserve ratio is. And that's what settlement is. That's a transaction that has to settle the transaction. But going back to your
Mm.
original point, the transaction settled with what block trades is proposing in 4 seconds. So now, if that transaction is some type of hash on the Hive blockchain that's tied to smart contracts or digital documents in a custom JSON or something like that, that thing's closed in 4 seconds.
It's crazy.
Now how the application is built to do that, I don't know. But that's the potential that's out there.
I just see stuff like this, and I've mentioned this in the past a couple of times, actually. The book I read, 2017, Blockchain Revolution by Don Tapscott. Now, obviously, this written in 2016, 2017 has changed dramatically. But yeah, when I read the chapter that he had on smart contracts and exactly what that can become in present day applications, it blew my mind. It was just like, holy crap, like this. And then you see why crypto is fought. You see why powers that be don't really want this to become, everyday currency and stuff like that, because it literally wipes out industries. Will just totally change it. Like, and they're terrified. They know that the old guard will be out of a job if this stuff really takes off. And it blows my mind. And this is why, even though we're 5 years into this on this chain, we're still puppies. Like we're still just getting our feet wet. Like, this is nothing. What this is going to mean in 5-10 years. That's why price is irrelevant. If you see cheap Hive, buy it up. If you see cheap Bitcoin, buy it up, because it's no.
Well, it's, and I often write about this. Just don't talk blockchain. Don't talk crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Talk the internet. Because blockchain is, in my opinion, just a part of the internet protocol now. And so is cryptocurrency. One adds more security and different data structure. The other adds monetization and commerce. Mm-hmm. But it's still the internet. But if you look at information purveyors, i.e. newspapers, magazines, the internet just blew them out of the water.
Right.
You look at record companies, blown out of the water. You look at video, Blockbuster, blown out of the water. And maybe, right. And we may be seeing Netflix blown out of the water before our eyes.
Yeah.
Now, if you go back to 1998, 1999, 2000, 2003, this company was around, but it did not create the retail apocalypse till more than a decade later. But Amazon blew retail out of the water.
Right. Yeah.
We're starting to see the internet. Look at what it's doing and done to banking. I just read 70% of all mortgages in the United States originate outside the traditional banking system. 70%. 2018, that crossed 50% for the first time. That's the Rocket Mortgage and all these apps that you just log on to and do this stuff. You have your entire stock brokerage industry. Remember when they charge fees? And then remember 20 years ago, E-Trade and Scottrade and discount brokers, instead of paying $60-$70 for a trade, $9.99. Now they're free.
Wow.
And it's like you start to see this evolution, and then you bring up the real estate industry. You bring up smart contracts. What does that do to the legal industry?
Oh, totally.
What are we going to dispute? It's in the smart contract. If you don't like the smart contract, sell out and move out elsewhere. Go to another chain. Don't use Hive Engine in their smart contract. Go use something else. Go use MetaMask. Go use whatever. This is all voluntary. So you start to see how this is affecting. And we've talked about you guys looking at a totally disrupting affiliate marketing and what's been done with email marketing and that type of stuff over the years. Will you achieve it? Who knows? But gaming, going to be disrupted. And all this stuff, and you start to look at these different industries and you say, holy shit, this is going to be big. But it's nothing new. It's just another iteration of what the internet's been doing for the last uh, 25 years. Look at what Facebook and Google did to advertising.
Mm.
Think about that. Think about all the money that was spent on advertising, what those two companies did to advertising.
Oh, dude, I mean, I have an example of what I went through yesterday, and this is an example that you're talking about disruptive technology. I had to go and get, I'm moving. I had to go get my U-Haul, and my wife had the truck. So my wife is booting around doing whatever she needs to do. And I'm sitting there going, how am I going to get to the U-Haul? I got to go get the U-Haul. Well, 20 years ago, what'd you do? You found the number for your local cab company and I'd like to get picked up here and here. And then you'd have a guy. The cab was usually dirty. It stunk. It was smelly. And, it was just a miserable experience. Now what do? You go on your phone. Oh, look, I got Uber. I'm not joking. Task. 2 minutes from I'm literally putting my pants on, ordering an Uber. The guy knocks on the door, like says, I'm here. It shows up on my app. And it was like cleanest car, smelled great, friendly dude, took it was probably about the same price. Nothing crazy, and I got to my destination without going through a company that owned the cars. All they did was own the technology, and they gave it out to the masses to they're the ones that own the car, not the company. And that's a completely disruptive technology that I don't know what it was like down there, but when Uber was first here, taxi cab companies fought it. Like they'd have protests at city halls and like, this is horrible. And they didn't roll with the punches.
Well, New York City is known for, or was known for, what was called the Taxi Medallion. It's kind of like a liquor license.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with them up there, but there's only a certain amount of this shit issued. You got to get a liquor license from the state, or in New York, it was a Taxi Medallion from the city, and they only issued a certain amount. So these things were going for like these taxi medallions for like $1 million. So people were throwing their life savings into it. Usually immigrants coming here trying to make a living. And for a lot of years, they were able to pay the fees on the taxi medallions plus, earn a living. Then Uber came in and just blew them out of the water.
Yeah. Because
like you said, and of course, now you have the next generation that people are looking at. You have Google with Waymo. You have Tesla with their automated systems. They're looking at having those same things, but without drivers, without human drivers. Right. So the next generation, whenever we get to that, and you have some fenced in, some geofencing in the U.S., like in Phoenix, Waymo runs specific paths, so you can go and get a car, and it'll work within a certain geographic area, maybe 10 or 20 blocks in Phoenix, so you can get a ride. If you want to go out to Scottsdale, forget it. The system, can't do that. But that's what Tesla and some other companies are working on. So it's going to get to the point where, you're going to do your thing, and it's like you won't even have somebody to talk to in the car because it'll just be an automated vehicle.
Going back to the book, the chapter on smart contracts from Blockchain Revolution, he actually used that as an example, and he said this is what the future of smart contracts are going to be. You're going to have entire taxi cab companies that aren't owned by people; they're owned by the smart contract that owns the car, and the car will self-drive, and if it needs gas, it'll go fill up, or if it needs a charge, it'll go charge. If it needs to get fix or maintenance, it'll drive itself and that blew my mind. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's AI and we're all gonna die and Terminator's coming. Sure. I was more like, wow, that is mind-blowing. And it was like, okay, so how do I get in on this? How do I own some of these cars?
Well, and here, Tesla's going to probably get to the point where they stop selling the cars and they become the service. But if you think about it, if that capability is out there, what about taking a Tesla with this automated driving, doing exactly what you're saying, but setting it up as a DAO? And then you and I could go and invest in 100 different vehicles in 100 different cities around the world, and we could buy tokens in each. and just the profitability of the DAO.
Yeah.
It just then distributes the token based upon your
To the
stake
holders. Yeah.
of your holders.
Mm.
And you diversify your portfolio by getting some in Toronto or San Francisco or New York. You go into all these different cities.
Mm.
That is really, when you start to think about the potentiality of these models, it's truly amazing.
Crazy. Yeah.
And that's where I think people are overlooking the ability of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, the there's three main areas that don't get talked about enough. First is access, which, like Hive, is an access token. It allows you to operate on the chain. The second thing is ownership, which we're hearing more and more about with NFTs and stake,
Assets of games.
having stake. And the third thing is governance, voting. And so if you understand that about cryptocurrency and you start applying it to anything that's autonomous out there, like a autonomous taxi or an autonomous taxi system, that's ideal for a DAO. And maybe once in a while, like you said, you have to hire somebody to go work on the car and fix the car. So, that's handled. And the smart contract tells you, okay, go over to Bubba's, EV fix it shop.
Yeah.
And you get that. Or, you need new tires. So you go over to Goodyear or wherever. And, that's programmed in.
Yep.
I mean, that's really where, when you start to, like you said, if you understand some of the core functionality of this stuff, you can then really start to ponder when you start to think of some of the futuristic technologies, for real estate, for construction, for music. I mean, we've talked about music a number of times and how this is going to change the music industry and content creators and, intellectual property and record keeping. I mean, what would it be instead of you paying that fee for the title to be registered with your local province or your local city or however the hell you do it up there? Boom, it's just on the blockchain. There's your deed. It's right there. It's on the blockchain.
You can see it through the Explorer.
It's right there. We know it's with Django, and then you sell the house. There's another hash that's tied to that one that moves that NFT or whatever the representation is to somebody else's wallet.
That's where I made this post on my Splinterlands account, so not the John Giolis account, but the Johnny Coin account, and I mentioned that, like, is it even fair to call, like, Splinterlands, for example, play to earn? Because the play to earn is you're earning an income from playing something, and Splinterlands just isn't that. What Splinterlands, because it's peanuts, it's literally your rewards are 20 cents. I mean, it's nothing, right?
Well, but some of the top players make bank, don't they?
Not necessarily. Like they do with the rewards season end. Like there is. I mean, I'm sure, but they have so much invested in things. So it's not like some Joe Schmo off the street can say, okay, I want to start earning a living playing this. They'd have to invest thousands and thousands of dollars in the assets. But that is where the future of gaming is for me personally. It's not necessarily this play to earn model, because it's more of a pay to play. Like you have to, and they've had that model on cell phone games and Facebook games forever. It's like you want the bigger levels, the more features, you got to pay to play. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Companies need to make money. But what Splinterlands does, which I think gaming is going to do, is that it gives the players ownership of the assets in the game.
Of course.
That is the opportunity.
Well, and the big thing is the ownership of the assets are still theirs after they leave the game. You have ownership of your assets in games online, but you click off the website, you have no access.
Yeah.
Now you shut off, you leave Splinterlands, you hit the X, it's still in your wallet. You can you can go sell it and rent it out or do whatever. I would look at Splinterlands. I would say, instead of trying to get into the gaming mindset, you brought up the last time metaverse. Splinterlands is developing to its own meta world. It's an ecosystem. It's a platform. It's yes, it's a game, but it's also a community. There's different facets. They keep adding more to it. They keep growing. Is there going to be stores tied to it? You obviously have different currencies. You have monetization processes. You have an ownership model with NFTs. What they could keep building this out, building this out, building this out. They're selling land. It's digital real estate. There's
Yeah.
different facets being created with this. How long? And it's not Splinterlands. It's just not the technology in general. But how long till it doesn't incorporate avatars? It'll incorporate down the road avatars, and
Right.
you'll be able to do things with avatars. I mean, all of this stuff that's kind of futuristic. You start to think about, okay, just take a little piece. Don't take that all of this is going to happen, but you start taking these little pieces of potentiality, and you say, well, if 1/10 of this happens with Splinterlands, wow, look at what that could become.
Right.
And the benefit to Splinterlands is Matt and Agrode and other people involved are still working at it. They're developing, they're building different things, and they're moving forward. So it can evolve and grow.
Yeah. It was built in a bear market too, right? I mean, Splinterlands was, if you think about it, it was created when everything was going to hell in a handbasket. And so it was crafted during that time. And the bull market, I see Splinter Magics in there saying old cars were peanuts, now they cost hundreds of dollars. Yeah, but for the new person now, you're looking at a Chaos Legion deck. Will a Kelia become the price of a Jotun? It won't. Supply and demand. It won't. Your market cap would have to go 10 trillion X for something that has 20 million copies compared to something that has 100 copies. That's why those old cards are worth so much, because there's limited supply. Now, everything, like you'll say, Task, everything can be cured with more members, more players. All problems are solved with more users. And that won't happen again because people have the attention span of goldfish. Splinterlands is unique though, because it's not tied necessarily to the price of crypto, because people actually like playing the game. Mm-hmm. But when there's a bull market on, that's when prices went ballistic. That's when I looked at my account on Splinterlands and I got $1 million worth of cards, because people get all pumped up and excited about prices of stuff. I don't, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the new Chaos Legion decks become as valuable as the beta and alpha decks. The amount of supply out there is astronomical compared to the demand right now. And the reason why those old cards went so high is because there was a very limited amount of them, tiny limited amount. Like the Archmage cards, there's 3 of them, gold foil. I think there's 3 of them. Guy was putting it up on the market for $1 million. If there was 1 million copies, would people pay $1 million each for it?
No, I agree with you, but then again, Splinterlands has 300,000 players a day. Well, what if it's 10 million? What if it's a 33x? And
all problems
that may not make the latest pack release worth those alpha and beta, but it certainly would increase the potentiality of them and the value of them, in my opinion, a great deal. So there's still speculation on that stuff, and but at the end of the day, you start tying that into quote unquote metaverse type stuff, and you get this gaming platform called Splinterlands, and all of a sudden there you get this land that people are be able to build on. Now you're just not talking a battle game. Now you're talking about all kinds of stuff being incorporated. What does that do to the value of stuff? Did you
say metaverse?
Yeah, I keep mentioning that because I know you got the damn book.
But see, that's the thing for me with Splinterlands. It's like the play to earn thing, whatever. If people want to call it play to earn, whatever. I think it's the asset ownership that is the biggest opportunity. Like you said, the land. That's the opportunity. The opportunity is to own actual pieces of the game.
Well, you look at EA Sports and any of these sports. That's why they make so much money, because they own it all.
Right.
You don't own any of it. You end up paying for your skins and your weapons and whatever your pieces are in the game. With Splinterlands, you pay for the pieces. You put money in. Yep. But if you go and buy a card, it's your card. And if the card appreciates in value because of the supply and demand or whatever, because of the growth of the game,
Oh yeah.
you get the value there, not Splinterlands directly, although they do benefit in different ways. So I mean, it's without a doubt, blockchain, cryptocurrency, digital assets are changing everything, and digital assets are the best way to own your assets. And go into something traditional like real estate, I can't tell you exactly how it's going to look in 10 years, but I
Right.
think it's going to look a lot better than it did in the past.
Mhm.
Tokenization is going to penetrate the real estate market. Um, how will it change things? I don't know exactly. Just like for sure, NFTs, tokenization, all of this is going to change music.
Mhm.
The music model is changing just like Napster changed the music model. And Spotify and Pandora and Apple Music, which were basically a result of Napster and Kazaa and LimeWire, now they're the
It
dominant
does.
forces. But guess what?
Wow.
NFTs,
Mm.
crypto, whatever platforms, maybe what Logical Dude's building with his DAO and his music DAO, stuff
Yeah.
like that could create another paradigm shift. And the less an industry has changed in recent years, the more it's ripe for disruption, especially if it's digital.
Bro, I spent the past decade of my life wasting my life away on Call of Duty. If I would have owned some of the stuff I unlocked there, it'd be great. That's why I invest my time on Splinterlands, and just like Splinter Magic mentioned, they revamped all the rewards today, brand new reward system.
That's
It,
what I said. They
you know,
keep working at it. They
keep
keep
working at it.
building.
Yep, yep.
And
It's a beautiful time to be alive.
well, and
Yeah.
that's the key with Hive. It's like
Mm,
I look at projects and we joke about the when soon and what's Blaine
mm.
doing? He's hanging out there drinking
Mountain
you
Dew,
know
yeah, constantly.
drinking some Mountain Dews and watching video games or playing video games. But you know, you look for the builders.
Yep.
Matt was on a call this morning with the Speak Network. They had an AMA. You guys are building with CTP. CyberX. I mean, everything that I went through before. I didn't mention those because there's a lot of hype. I
Yeah,
mentioned them because I know there are people building shit.
exactly.
And that's the big thing to this. It's keep building, keep building, keep building. That's what Google did. That's what I mean. As much as we hate Zuckerberg, that's what he did. Facebook is not the same application it was 15 years ago. It's
Mhm.
evolved, it's grown, they've added, they've changed. That's what it takes. And, we are in the very early stages of all this stuff. So, what is CTP going to look like in 5 years? What is Leo Finance going to look like in 5 years? I mean, we don't have these answers, but, what is Splinterlands going to look like in 5 years? Who the hell knows? I mean, 3 years ago, we couldn't imagine Splinterlands being where it is today,
Right.
but yet it is. And so these guys have pretty good insight of what they're looking at. They have the ability to ponder and imagine and read what's going on and find out what others are doing and build upon it.
Yeah.
And that's just what's taking place. I mean, what the hell is Brian of London going to come up with over the next 3 years? I mean, I do you see him stopping his coding? I don't. And he's into something, and he's found a niche that he feels can be pretty big. And I agree with him. You know,
Mhm.
and that puts Hive at the center of a lot of this stuff, not
Yep.
exclusively. And I don't believe, I mean, we're not Hive maxis where we believe Hive's going to be the only thing that's out there. It's going to be the number one token. It's going to take over everything and
Mhm.
everything will be on Hive. No, that's absurd.
Yeah.
Ethereum's not going anywhere. Neither
Yeah.
is Polygon or BSC or a lot of these other things. Hell,
Yeah.
even Sun with Tron is going to hang around.
He's
But
got the big stable coin now, so
he's got the big
he's, everyone loves Tron again.
till they decide to attack the hell out of that one.
Yeah.
But you know, Hive is taking the slow approach. We're building value, and if you if you always what's the old saying? Under promise and over deliver. And if you're working at delivering more than you promise, and if you're out there trying to build your application, trying to build your business, your ecosystem, and you're giving people stuff they like, want to use, and enjoy using, I mean, the token is just an add-on. The rewards are an add-on.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if you can do this in the digital realm without tokenizations or approach it like tokens didn't exist, what happens when you incorporate the tokens in? Then it's like, boom, this goes to the moon. And that's what I see on Hive potential. I don't know which it's going to be. I mean, CyberX I don't understand a lot of it, but it's pretty cool what they're doing.
Go where things are being built. Use case, community, and development. The 3 keys to a successful, happy life.
What's the story with Tron?
What's the story with Tron?
Are you looking for the 5-second version, or do you want us to do a whole episode on Tron?
We'll do the Tron Love Fest one of these episodes for sure.
Yeah, we could fill in a whole episode on Tron.
Yeah. And with Tron,
Tron was just a copy paste, and it appears that it has not changed in whatever it's been 4 years.
Yeah. The code was literally copied from Ethereum. Like, yeah. Boom me. Yeah. I only know that's it. I might not be a maximalist. I understand that there's lots of stuff out there, but I like keeping my focus here because there's lots of cool things here. So,
and by the way, if you want to get there's 2 things you can do to get Blaine upset now that we figured out. Anytime you write his name, put an E on it.
Yes.
Or go buy a whole bunch of index early in the day.
Yes, before he gets
he's
his
in
hands.
U.S. time. He's in Western Hemisphere time. So if you're over in the EU, go but when you wake up, buy a shitload of index just for Blaine.
Perfect. Dude, that was a good show, man. Good impromptu. We always like these ones. This gives us a chance to ramble on and on and on about how much we love this stuff. So there you go. I got to go move boxes because that's what I do with my life is I move boxes.
Well, we did announce that next week is
Brian of London. Yep.
And you will be putting a post up, I presume, tomorrow for our questions on Friday.
Blaine wants to know. He wants to say, yeah.
Don't buy index.
Bad token.
Yep. And after he opens the show saying, I'm buying index. I know tomorrow I'll be buying index. Now he says, don't buy index.
Reverse psychology. Guys, thank you very much for coming and hanging out. Great show. Great audience today. You guys rocked. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. And I'll put the question up tomorrow for Friday's show. So if you got any crypto questions, et cetera, let us know. And we'll see you guys on Friday. Toodles.
Ciao.